Proax for safety products and projects, and looking forward to having an opportunity to share not only what Proax is working on across the country and able to assist with in regards to pedestrian segregation, but I have two of my colleagues with me today. I have Nathan Holm, who is from Troax Active Safety, normally out of Texas, but he's working on a project in California today. And so he'll be joining us later on presenting some of the active safety products. And we have Sean Lowry, who is from here in Ontario in Georgetown, and he represents Ontario Bullards, who supplies our passive safety products, which we'll talk about a little bit more in a few moments. As we start today, first of all, I just want to say thank you for coming. Thanks for being a part of the work that we're doing. I'm just going to get my presentation to open up easily here for myself. As I mentioned, I'm Kevin Van Dyken. I represent Proax Technologies, and for those of you who have joined us today and don't know about Proax, Proax is a 60-year-old automation distributor here in Canada. We are proudly Canadian owned and operated. We have 13 sites coast to coast, and we deal with a very large number of customers in manufacturing. We work with a number of customers in warehousing, and every industry that you can imagine: pharmaceutical, oil and gas, food and bev. We work across the platform. And what's more important in what differentiates us in the marketplace is we have a very unique relationship with our vendors, where our goal is to be as good, if not better, than our vendors at technical support. And so for every sales rep that I have in the field representing us across Canada, behind the scenes, we have a technical person who is assisting us with day in and day out operations, whether it's from design, whether it's for safety evaluations, whether it's for pneumatic expertise or robotic assistance. We can do all of those things. Proud to be Canadian owned and operated, and very excited about the growth that we're seeing here in Canada, both in warehousing and manufacturing. I'm going to let Nathan and Sean introduce themselves in a couple minutes. What we want to do today is I'm going to cross over and do a little bit of an overview of the current landscape in manufacturing and warehousing. We want to talk just briefly about what the standards are that we need to follow. And we also want to just talk about what is helpful for passive and active safety technologies in the marketplace. So when we talk about manufacturing, I think there's two major things that we need to highlight. One is that warehousing and manufacturing is growing in all of our provinces. When we look at the statistics, when we look at where things are happening across the country, there is growth that we are seeing across the country. The other big thing that we need to talk about is the fact that that forklifts, although they're incredibly common in our workplace, the use of AGVs, so automated guided vehicles, and autonomous mobile robots, AMRs, is increasing rapidly here in Canada. When we talk about the growth of the manufacturing sector, one of the biggest things that we want to highlight is just the fact that the growth rate is not small. It's actually very large, 1.7 year-over-year growth here in Canada. And that includes things like transportation and equipment. It includes food and beverages. It includes medical devices and products. What has surprised me most in the last year has been the increase in machinery manufacturing that's happening here in Canada. And we're very proud that's a major growth area that we're seeing. But I think one of the most important things that we want to highlight today is what's happening in the warehouse sector, and the reason it's happening. And when we spent some time recently with ABB Robotics, one of the things that we discovered was that as they look at the trends in the general industry, what they're finding is that the general industry accounts for 39% of all new robotic installations. So we're so used to seeing robots in places like automotive or pharmaceutical, those kind of places. But what's incredible is that 40% of the marketplace now is actually seeing new robotic installations in the general industry. And so as you drive through whatever town you're in across Canada, the reality is that the small, what we would have called back in the day when I was a kid, the mom and pop shops, they're now starting to use robotics as a very common part of what they're doing. What's even more surprising is when we talk about the $60 billion that is going to be spent globally this year on robots, there's an additional $7 billion that is expected to be spent on AMRs. So almost 10% of all purchases of robots are no longer packaging things or assembling things. They're actually moving things through facilities. And so when we start talking about the facilities that we're working in, when we're talking about the opportunities that we have for safety, the things that we're looking at and asking the question of how do we provide safety? What is the safety that we're going to need? We need to take into account that not only are there robots that we have to create protection for as part of the manufacturing side of things, the warehousing side of things is a much more important thing that we have to be concerned about. So when we start talking about standards, we have to ask the question about how does that flow as a part of the everyday concept of what we're working on. Forklifts are easy. We all know forklift safety. Most people in your facility, if you have a forklift, have taken that. There are regulations that are part of what we have here in Ontario and in other provinces. And in those regulations are the basic overviews of what needs to happen. There's what is expected from the owner. There's what's expected from the supervisor. There's what's expected from the employee. And we all know that we need to do inspections. We need to do training. We need to do daily reviews. And those things have to have renewal dates on them. So for forklift training, every 3 years, you need to get your forklift training updated. So mine popped up the other day and I've registered for my next course to keep my certification. But those things happen on a regular basis. When we start talking about AGVs and when we start talking about AMRs, it starts to go in a different direction because many of us don't know what the regulations are, what the inspection expectations are, or what the training should be. And this is where we start to see something unique in the industry. So for the regulations, there's an ISO regulation for AGVs and AMRs. There's a OSHA regulation, and there is in the works some work happening behind the scenes at CSA. But really, when we look at this, it's a unique thing because we're still learning what this looks like. And although you can walk through a place like a Honda or a Toyota, and you commonly see these, the reality is that most people don't have these yet. But over the next number of years, people are going to see them more and more. I've talked to 3 customers in the last month who have AMRs on order for their manufacturing warehouses. And so we need to be prepared as safety and engineering teams at facilities, because when these AMRs come to our facilities, we have to know how that changes our facility. No longer can I just count on the designed safety protocols that I've had in the past, where I point, I look, I get eye contact. I now have to be aware that there's a machine coming through the facility that doesn't have somebody on it. There's not somebody manning it. And so we have to be cognizant of that as we review those opportunities. The other thing are our pedestrians. We have in all of our facilities expectations for them. We have things that we do. There are expectations for PPE. There are expectations for how people are engaged in and around our machines and where safety should be around electrical boxes and fire exits. So pedestrians already have a number of regulations, and we do these as a common practice. And for most of us who are in safety or engineering, we're regularly doing inspections. I walk through our facility and I'm looking for people who are wearing safety boots. I am looking for people who need to be wearing safety vests or safety glasses in certain areas. That's something that we're very much accustomed to. But the question will be as we continue to see more and more AMRs coming into facilities, how is it that we are creating the highest level of safety protection for the robots, for the forklifts, and more importantly, the pedestrians? Because as we all know, what we want is for every Canadian to go home at the end of every day safe. And having been someone who got injured in the workplace, I know how important it is to be protected, to have protocols in place, and to be following those. So that brings us to the group that we have here today, and I want to introduce Sean Lowry. He's going to be talking to us today about passive safety. And let me do, just before he jumps on, I'm going to give you just a quick reminder that there are 2 types of safety when we think in facilities. One's called passive safety. The other one's called active safety. Passive safety is this idea of a practice of taking measures to reduce the consequence of an accident as opposed to attempting to avoid them. It's like on a car. you put a bumper on a car, even though my car has so many safety features on it now. My seat vibrates when I'm turning a corner just to tell me that there's a light pole there. We have so many active devices on our vehicles, but we know that accidents are still inevitable. And so on every vehicle, there are still passive safety devices like a bumper. The other side of that is the active safety devices, these proactive devices and measures trying to avoid accidents. And that's what Nathan Holm will be talking about in a little while. So I'm going to stop sharing, and I'm going to hand this over to Sean Lowry from Ontario Bullards. He's one of our vendor partners. And Sean, I'd love you to introduce your company and the products that you offer through Proax.
Good morning, everyone. Kevin, thank you very much for the introduction, and thanks for having me. As Kevin mentioned, I'm a sales manager with Ontario Bullards, and this morning I'll be talking to you about CoreFlex. So CoreFlex impact absorbing guardrail is a standout passive safety solution. It's designed to address a critical problem: how to protect assets and people when a forklift or other vehicle collides with a barrier. Here are a few things that make CoreFlex unique. It's a hybrid construction, so it combines high-strength Schedule 40 steel with an impact-absorbing elastomer base. This is what allows the product to actually absorb the impact. So it uses an innovative absorption system. During a collision, the energy of the impact is gradually absorbed by an elastomer in the base, and the post will tilt up to 15 degrees as it absorbs the energy. After the impact, the post returns upright. So why would you choose CoreFlex? When you choose CoreFlex, you get a protection system that will protect your employees, protect your equipment, and reduce damage to your walls and your facility. The best way to explain the product is to show a video of what it looks like. So here's the base, the pipe, and essentially the connector pieces. It's a very simple system, completely modular with infinite configurations. This is the CoreFlex bollard, a single guardrail, a goalpost, a double guardrail. This is how the product performs. So you can see the forklift bounces right back off, no damage to the concrete, no repairs, no maintenance. Tilts up to 15 degrees. This is the CoreFlex wheel. I'll talk a little bit more about this, but essentially this will redirect an impact. So that's CoreFlex. Again, very simple configuration. It only has 4 components. So the base assembly, the elbow, the T-bow, and then the Schedule 40 pipe. One of the greatest benefits of this product, especially if you're shipping across country, is that it's just a typical Schedule 40 pipe. We often powder coat it yellow, but you only need to ship the components, the T-bow, the elbow, and the base. You can get the pipe locally anywhere. Again, a little more information about the wheel. This is designed so that it will fit over the CoreFlex bollard, but also most warehouses in Canada will have a 4.5-inch standard bolt-down bollard all throughout the warehouse. This will fit perfectly over one of those as well, and it will 5 times the impact absorption. So if a standard bolt down gets hit right now by a forklift, likely there are going to be repairs required. Putting the CoreFlex wheel on there, again, will 5 times the impact rating. This is an overhead view of some testing we did in our facility. Basically, the vision on the left is a standard steel guardrail. So if a forklift hits it at a couple kilometers an hour, there's going to be quite a few repairs and you'll need new guardrail. The image on the right is CoreFlex. The forklift will hit it and just bounce right off. The only thing that would ever happen with the CoreFlex is if you hit it extremely hard, the pipe may dent and you would just need to repair the pipe. There's a lifetime guarantee on all of the connectors, so the elbow and the T-bow. That's made of cast, extremely robust, and that's why we have a lifetime warranty on it. The modular system gives you flexibility to design any configuration you can imagine. So column guards, goalposts, any type of equipment or configuration that you need, the product is completely modular. Thanks very much.
Thanks, Sean. So all of those products that you see there are available through Proax. The CoreFlex wheel, we're just waiting. That will be on our website, I think by end of week is what we were expecting. But all of those products are available. And then, Sean, you've got a full range of just standard bollards. I know you just completed a large project out in British Columbia with us. So you have a normal 4.5 outside diameter bollard and a 6.5 inch just bolt down ones, correct?
That is correct, yes.
Okay. And just so you're all aware, those are available through Proax Technologies. And if you have any questions or if you would like a site visit where you'd like us to come in and showcase some of these products from Ontario Bullards, don't hesitate to ask your local Proax technical sales rep, and myself and or Sean can make our way out to you to allow you to see these products firsthand. Thanks, Sean. I appreciate your time today.
Thank you so much.
No
One
problem.
Quick question, Kev.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, no, I saw in the photos, that's Carrie here from BC. I just saw in the photos there was a yellow and there was also gray pipe. I'm just wondering, is there one that's more standard than the other? Or is it yellow that's more common, or just a question about that?
So it all depends on the type of facility you're in. The gray is just a galvanized pipe, so we haven't powder coated it. A lot of the people will go with the safety yellow just because it's a little bit more visible, a little bit cleaner looking. But if you're in a bottling plant or a more industrious facility, the galvanized is typically fine too.
Gotcha. So the yellow is way more common. That's the one we're going to be stocking, I would imagine, Kev.
Correct, Carrie. Yeah.
Perfect. Just wanted to thank you.
No problem.
No problem. All right, we're going to hand this over to Nathan. Nathan's got a full presentation on the Troax active safety product. We did promise that we'd be doing a 45-minute webinar, so we will run till 11:45. If you want to stay afterwards and you have questions for Nathan, Sean, or myself, we will shut down the recording and the main session. And those of you who need to go, we fully appreciate that. But for anyone who wants to stay around, we will stay on as long as necessary to help support the questions, both from the Proax people who are here today doing some learning and also for customers who have come to join the webinar. Nathan, welcome.
Yeah, thank you very much. I appreciate it. And thank everyone for being here. I know your time is valuable, so I'll move through some of these things as quick as possible. I'm the business development manager here for all of North America, and I will turn my camera off here in just a minute. I just want to introduce myself real quick, but just for the sake of hotel internet bandwidth here, let me see if I can get this full screen. I'm not going to go through all the 52 slides, of course, today, because again, for the sake of time, I know we're a little bit pressed, so I'm happy I'll save a little bit of time towards the end to answer any questions. But the main thing I want to share with you today will be some of the videos so you can get some better examples of what we have to offer. And this will highlight some of the main categories. Let me get to full screen here. It's not working, but that's okay. Let me go through just a couple quick slides. I want to let you know that with Troax, I mean, we're the largest provider globally for what most people know us for as our core products here, which would be machine guarding and partitioning. So like Kevin mentioned early on when we were introducing what our different categories are, I'm going to talk mostly about active safety, but we do have quite a few passive safety products as well, quite a bit different than what Sean was just showing there, more related to machine guarding, partitioning, rack back, and products like that. But we'll focus mostly on this active safety right here. So just to give you a quick highlight of the categories that we'll cover in some of the videos that we'll show, it'll be more focused on pedestrian alert systems, collision avoidance systems, traffic control, and then some speed or low speed area applications as well. So that's how most of the main categories break down, but that's why I want to go ahead and show you this quick video. And I'll stop a few times along the way here if you do happen to have questions, because there are a lot of different products that we offer here. So if you have questions, I'm happy to stop and answer some of those, or we can save some till the end. So feel free to interrupt me and let me know if there's anything not playing well in this video. The first example we're going to see is the pedestrian alert systems, the first category that I just showed you. And again, I'll pause quite a few times during this just to explain what you're looking at. So with our, and I'll probably toggle back and forth just a little bit here too, but with our pedestrian alert systems, sorry, my mouse is struggling a little bit. One thing you're going to see is a pedestrian safety tag. So these are wearables that employees can wear. So you'll see some little demonstration. It's going to look similar to this. It's like an old pager. If you're my age, you know what a pager is, but it's a smaller device, less than the size of the palm of your hand. And so you'll see just on barely in the animation here, there's some wearables. You can have them either on your vest. Somebody could have it on their belt. We even have hard hats you can integrate these systems with. And what the tag does is alerts between the vehicle and the pedestrian that there's something within it, whatever designated range that you that you tell us to be. So we can actually look around corners of objects. It's radio frequencies. We have ultra wideband frequencies as well. So we can get very precise with where the pedestrian or the vehicle is in relation to each other. So the tag itself will actually vibrate. It has a light on it that blinks so you can see it visibly, and then it has the audible. So there's 3 different senses that you're going to see with the tag, and those are all adjustable as well. So the intensity of the vibration, the light can be a different color too, to indicate a few different things, whether it's battery power or distance. So all those things are something we can tweak a little bit. But so this first interaction here, you can see on the truck, there is a light blinking up there. We have buzzers, we have different types of lights, we have LED lights, we have strobe lights, whatever it is you want on the vehicle to warn that there's somebody within whatever the proximity is that we set. Because again, those are all adjustable as well from the truck itself. So your vehicle does need to be equipped with a pedestrian alert system, and they would need to have a wearable for these 2 things to interact. On the next thing you're going to see in the video here, and again, sorry, I'm backing up on some of these because I just want to re-explain what some of these are. It's not always obvious in the first quick short example, but the next one that we'll move to would be a speed reduction for a roof radar system. So as your vehicle approaches, you probably know a lot of times outside you want your vehicles to operate a little bit faster. Indoors, you can reduce the speed in this example from say 12 kilometers to 6. And so the roof radar system is just sensing that there is a roof overhead, and it knows to reduce the speed at that point. In this next example, this is more of a traffic control or blind spot protection. And I'll back up again here just shortly. So what you're seeing here is that we have a number of ways, and you'll see a few examples of this through the video too as we move along, but we're identifying the vehicle by a number of different methods. We can either do radars. If we have a system on the truck, we can sense from the truck, again, with radio frequencies to know it's in the area. But because in this example where this person's walking along right here, they can't see that the forklift's coming up behind them. So to add some additional safety so they don't wander out into the lane right here before the forklift comes, we can actually lock this pedestrian safety gate. So there's an electromagnetic lock here. So for now, it says green. And then as he approaches the gate, when we sense the forklifts coming either by radars, RFIDs are an option, AI camera systems are an option, we lock the gate until it's safe to cross. Truck-to-truck systems. So I mentioned earlier that one of the categories is collision avoidance systems. So this could be vehicle to vehicle. This could even be vehicle to AGV or AMR, as Kevin talked about early on. That is a growing segment. There's more and more automation and robotics. So this is something we could integrate between vehicles. There's a number of different methods as well. If you don't equip anything on any of the AGV or AMRs or any types of automation, we do have, you'll see a quick example here in a minute for cameras and AI systems as well. It's another option too. So this is if 2 vehicles in this example are equipped both with the collision avoidance systems, the CAS systems. And what can happen here is the reason 2 different colors, basically showing 2 different zones, is that the first one you could actually, and again, these are adjustable. So you could have this range much further out, which is sometimes necessary if your vehicles move at a faster speed. But the first zone can actually just give a warning to say, there is something, you're approaching something, take caution, be alert. And then if they don't react, if the operator didn't react and they continue to get even closer together, then the second zone, you could actually increase the intensity of the alert itself, so we can change colors or tones, or importantly, then we can actually reduce the speed. So it's like what Kevin mentioned earlier, that with our cars, we do have all these new features in them. We have things that help us, like the vibration of a steering wheel, or of the beeping in the car to warn us that something's, or even another step in most of the cars now that we have, they actually will start to brake. They'll assist you in braking. So same concept here is that first one's giving you a little bit of warning. Let's see if you react, if the operator reacts. And if they don't, then we can, in the next zone, you can actually increase some of the safety features and start to reduce the speed of the vehicle itself. And this is same thing with the collision avoidance systems. We can actually use those with the ultra wideband tags for the pedestrians, and we can have the same interaction between those. So we can't control the speed of the human, of course, but you can with the vehicle. This is one of our, also a very popular option. This is called our crossing guard. And you'll see a few different angles of this here in just a minute, but this is a simple concept of a traffic control system. You may have seen some different variations of these in warehouses or companies that have tried to attempt to do a crossing guard system. What ours offers is something that's much more robust and accurate, and the LED lights are much brighter than maybe anything else you've ever seen. There's nothing else quite like this in the market right now. We're pretty proud of ours because we do feel like it is the best crossing guard system that's available anywhere, by quite a bit. Not just because of the accuracy, but the actual look of it. So what you see here is this vehicle approached first. This crossing guard is just an independent system that's hanging up here, just simply powered by any standard power outlet. And so they're easy to install or easy to adjust. At the bottom here, there's 4 radars in this example. It's a 4-way crossing guard system. So first to approach the intersection would get the right of way in this example. And these radars with the blue coming out is just basically showing that it's looking in all these different directions for any traffic. So these can actually detect pedestrians or forklifts, and we can adjust the sensitivity and the distance and the range with these two. So if you just wanted to detect vehicles only, we can set them up that way as well. So all these are programmable, and the distances can sense things much further than you would ever even really want them to. Limitations aren't anything that's a concern at all, because if you wanted to see something over here 30 meters away for any reason, we can identify things at that distance. But most of the time, you're only going to want to look within a reasonable distance of maybe 5-7 meters, so you can hang these two at any height. But where these are best suited is heavy traffic intersections, or to replace dome mirrors that you see in warehouses quite a bit, because nobody's really looking at the mirrors anymore. They're a little bit difficult sometimes to kind of tell what's actually coming at it because it's a curved mirror. So this gives you a nice bright option right away. There's no doubt that something's coming because you get a red light on the other side. So anyway, with that explanation, let me let you watch the video again. And you'll see a few different perspectives here. And then this is probably one of our most popular options, our traffic control. So it's growing more and more because these can be applied at any type of racking system. You can apply the same concept on blind spots around corners as well. You'll see a few examples of that in just a minute, but I'll show you a real example. What this is demonstrating here, and I'll show you a picture here, but this is actually, a projector is one option, but I think the more common and probably more popular are actually LED lights on the side of racks, or even the standard traffic lights, so the green, red, like you saw in some of the previous examples. And because they're a little bit more compact, and it's not an object that sticks out into the rack and runs the risk of a forklift hitting it or something with their mast. But the purpose of the system is just to let anything coming by, whether it's somebody on foot or on a forklift, that there's something close or nearby that's active in that racking system. Or again, this can be applied to doorway, offices, exits, anywhere that you want to sense or have an additional warning around a blind spot, that somebody needs to have a little bit more caution before they enter this area. So what happens here is there's movement within the 2-3 bays down. Somebody is aware, they can actually hesitate, look, and see what the danger is. I mentioned the traffic lights just a second ago. Let me show you real quick too. This is a project we just finished recently. This is probably the more popular option. You can see these LED light bars. that we install at the side of these racks. This is just all traffic control. So you can see if there's red, there's going to be, you can see an operator right over here where my cursor is. Yellow, in this case, means that there's something further down. So like at Coca-Cola, at this one, they wanted it about 3 bays down where they start to have a yellow caution. Anybody within the first 2 are going to get red. So if there's yellow here, there's something further down the aisle actually happening. And what these lights do is they synchronize from one end to another. So if there's yellow here, then that means there's probably red on the opposite end. Green, of course, the aisle is just free, completely free and clear. But these are nice and compact. We have all kinds of different sizes that we offer too, but they definitely get your attention. It doesn't take the operator's view off of his line of sight that's in front of them. So as opposed to looking up here, you can see there's no dome mirrors at the top of this warehouse anymore because their traffic control and their visibility is directly in front of them. So they never have to take their eyes off everything or look up. And then the lights are, of course, much more obvious than looking for anything else, or it's impossible in some cases to look around the corner. We have full pallets or full racks. And we can even track quantities of vehicles, vehicle types in aisles, knowing when somebody exited the other end, like the example you're seeing here. This next one is another approach to identifying objects. This is our camera, the AI systems. Again, similar to some of the radar systems, we can tell the difference between a pedestrian or a vehicle in a lot of different ways you approach. So what we're seeing shown here is that you can have the systems on the trucks themselves. You can also have, in the next example right after this, you can have a fixed point where we show right here, there's just a camera system looking. We could communicate this to the vehicle if we wanted to on the display screen, or this could just be an independent warning system to basically signal from a projector, LED lights, traffic lights, basically just all remote signaling to let someone know that in this case, we're just showing that there's a light blinking up here to say that there's something coming. So somebody needs to proceed with caution. And this is just showing what the camera is seeing. We have truck docking systems, inside and outside. So what this example is here explaining this is that on the outside, you'll see a different docking system in just a moment, but this was a backup system to let them know when they're either need to slow down. We could transition that LED light, and then alternatively on the inside, we can synchronize the lights on the outside with the lights on the inside. So you could have lights right here where my cursor is on either side, which is a common request from customers that they like these things to actually be integrated together so that if the truck is docked and locked on the outside, they want to have a light indicator on the inside. So it's not shown here, but I'm just letting you know that you can do that. We can synchronize everything from interior and exterior. This is a simple approach just to let somebody know that there is a forklift in the back of it. Picture a truck either coming along this direction down from the ramp here or somebody on foot. You want to know that there's a forklift inside the back of this truck. So you can hesitate and look around the corner or wait for them to exit before you pass because they can't see anything when they're about to back out and vice versa. But again, many different methods to display the warning, whether it's a projector like this example or LED lights or traffic lights on the side of the walls here. But you don't have to have anything equipped on the truck. In this example, we're just sensing it with a simple reflective strip on the side of the truck and a photo sensor. And then I mentioned early some of the other big product segments. Again, this is one more example you'll see here of traffic management, blind spot protection. This projector, this is probably one of our most popular options as well, is to actually have the active warning here. When this forklift's coming, they get a red light. This is a virtual option, but remember earlier we were looking at some of the physical gates. So we can use those things in combination, or we could just have a virtual if you don't have, for the sake of space, or if you just don't want a physical gate to open and close. Then we could display lines on the ground as well. So once the area is safe, your crossing guard is displayed there, and we show you some actual example pictures of that too. Let me back up 1 second, sorry.
And those projectors, they do 12 feet normally, correct? Is that right, Nate?
Yes, it's a good question. It depends a little bit on the application. Like I'll show you to the 12 feet here. Sure, click on the video, 2 minutes. Okay. So in this one, yes, Kevin, you're right. This is another example of Coca-Cola. So this entire facility here, this is all projected pathway. So what happens here, just like that animation you just saw, that these activate. So there's either a forklift warning when forklifts come out of these charging stations here. We do have radars way up here at the top. You can barely see. We have radars positioned to sense when there's trucks moving. So this pathway changes to a warning instead. So it's actually active in that sense. The rest of these areas where it's green with the yellow stripe projected around the whole facility, that's fixed. Those aren't active, they're not moving or changing or anything. But this is really important in facilities where you have extremely dirty floors and people have to clean them a lot. Food and beverage, it's really helpful too, because it's a nice clean option. And typically, even like a Coca-Cola, for example, the dropping cases constantly. There's things busting all over the floors all the time and falling off the pallets as they're packing everything. So they have to come around immediately with their sweeper scrubbers, and we have painted surfaces or taped or anything else. Those get worn out pretty quick. So this is a nice option to not have to worry about replacing those stripes constantly. And they look aesthetically, they look really nice. It also, you'll notice with these, if you ever have a facility when you put these pathways in, that people tend to fall on better than they do painted, faded stripes, especially. But as they walk along, it just naturally they stay on the pathway is what we find too. So I really do feel like they're much safer options. But yes, 12 foot is about the length that you can typically get. In this case, you can see that we mounted these projectors up. Really, I'll go back to this picture. Pretty high. They're 28 feet at the bottom of the projector up above. In this case, we can get about 12 feet in length. We can get up to about 25 feet depending on the height that we didn't mount it and the lighting conditions in the facility itself. So if it's a very bright facility, it could be really different results. And then we'll determine based on kind of what the lux is of the facility, what wattage of projector we need. And then also, of course, height again is a big factor in that too. So those are all important questions and discussions to have early on to really determine what the best projector is. In this example here, this is very simple. Typical dock doors that you see are 12 feet tall, or transitions between one room to another like this one. Not very tall. So this is an easy one here. Usually like a 150 or 200 watt projector is sufficient. And then you've got about a 10 to 12 foot crossing. So you only need one projector for an application like this. The last one, the Coca-Cola, I think we had 87 projectors total in the whole facility. Customers really, they love it. They appreciate these things when you get in, because it's just nice visually they look really nice, but just to never have to sit there and repaint again and again is a huge benefit, especially in that last picture I was showing you with the Coca-Cola. When you have charging stations and there's usually a different surface that's a material that's put on the protective, essentially below the charging station, because of leaks and spills. And when you have projected or even laser options in those areas, they look a lot nicer. You don't have to repaint them every 3 to 4 or 6 months like you do most of the time. And of course, tape gets worn out pretty quick too. So in the long run, they definitely you'll see the ROI on them, but aesthetically in the meantime, they always just have a better appearance. This example here is showing, I showed you early in the video that we have a roof radar system. This system is similar in the concept. This is more in a specific area. If you want to transition from one part of your warehouse to another, and you're already the vehicle's already inside, or if you have a specific, like a dock, near docks, if you wanted to install, say 10 feet out, but the entire docking area, you want to reduce speeds of the vehicles there, then this is an alternative system for the low speed assistance. So what happens here is this is reflective aluminum housing, basically, that has reflective strips in it. So what it's demonstrating here is it's looking up here for this. You'll see this first one spaced a little bit different than the next two. That's to let the vehicle know which direction it's approaching, and we can reduce the speed according to 1 or 2. And I know I've only got a few minutes here, so I'm just going to run through the rest of the video. Sorry. I know there's a lot of products, so it's hard to cram them all in a short amount of time, but more blind spot as this video plays too. Kevin, if anybody's got some questions, just for the sake of time, feel free to, I'm happy to answer things, or we can put some questions together afterwards and circle back with any answers.
Yeah, I think the big thing, Nate, is for people to realize that there are multiple products that have been used around the world that we now have available here in Canada. Anything from the rudimentary passive safety that Sean's company is able to support us with, the active safety that Troax has now purchased with Claytech and has been available in Canada for the last year. The biggest thing is asking the question about what are the needs that you are finding in your facility? What are the culture requirements that your safety team and your management would like to see mitigated? And then how can we help you come in, assess where things are at, determine what products could be help those situations, and go from there. And so Proax has positioned themselves between myself and we have Doug Critch, who's a TUV functional safety engineer. So he does machine safety, but him and I are both working in the warehouse safety areas as well. And really what we're asking for is if you have a need and there's an opportunity for us to evaluate with you as to what it is we can do to assist you, this new movement to active safety is just heightening the safety opportunities in your facility. And yeah, just consider the opportunity. And if we can do something to help you, we'd be glad to do that. Thanks for your time today. I'm going to stop the recording now. And if there are some people who want to stay around and continue to ask questions, Nathan and Sean and myself will stay and do that. If you have a specific request as per one of the items that you saw, don't hesitate to ask. Otherwise, thanks for your time today. And we look forward to hearing from you.